Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
The brackets are out, so who are we picking to win it all? We've known the top 3 number 1 seeds, but did the 4th deserve it? And who are the best sleepers to be picking? Plus, despite a PR campaign that would make any presidential candidate jealous, Justin Fields just isn't that good. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today and you'll get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
All right, before any buzzers get beaten, before any nets get cut down, we have to have the selection. One of the biggest Sundays that is not a football season Sunday, all year selection Sunday. Now the bracket is set. Isaac Shade from Locked On College Basketball joins me now. And Isaac, we got the top seeds. Everyone's got their favorite sleepers. We're going to talk about that. But as you look at this top group of teams, you and I have talked about this Big Four group all season long.
Yeah.
Well, we saw a team like Purdue slip up in the Big Ten tournament against the Wisconsin Badgers team that they didn't think they got a very favorable whistle and still won that game. Who is a top seed in this top 4? Who you go, I'm the most worried about them?
Yeah, I mean, what's funny is it actually kind of is Purdue. And here's why, Peter. It's not because I don't like them as a team. It's because as I look at the bracket, which I'm doing right now, outside of round 1, I can legitimately envision a scenario where they could lose that game. Utah State, the 8th seed in their bracket, is a very good team out of the Mountain West Conference with one of my favorite names in all of college basketball, Great Osabor. He's an absolute dude. In the second round, in the Sweet 16, then it would probably either be Kansas or Gonzaga, both of whom I could see them losing to. Tennessee, all of that kind of stuff, Peter, where it's a very realistic possibility. But here's the other thing. UCONN, who to me passes the eye test as the best team in the nation and is the number 1 overall seed, the committee has done them absolutely zero favors. So while they're not vulnerable, their bracket is dirty.
First of all, I like it when the selection committee does that. Take this team that everyone realizes is the best team and make them go through hell to get to the final. Yes. And Isaac, remind me how Purdue fared as a 1 seed last year?
There was a team by the name of Fairleigh Dickinson that knocked them off. Just the second time ever that a 16 has beaten a 1.
Okay, so there's some precedent here for Purdue. And,
yes.
And those guys remember that. There are plenty of players that were on that team that are coming back for another crack at this. All right, everyone loves a sleeper. Yeah. Everyone wants to be the team that picks the 4 seed or the 6 seed or the 9 seed or who knows. We've seen George Mason, come all the way down to the Final 4. Give me one of those middle seeded teams where you go, I like the bracket. I like the team. I think they have a chance to make a deep run here. For a more middle seeded as opposed to like a lower seeded just out of nowhere. Is that what you're meaning? Well, unless you think there's an 11 seed that can go make a run here. I'm thinking like kind of 6, 7, 8, somewhere in there.
Okay, more in that range. Yeah. There's a team that's got some talent that's been up and down this year that I think is actually really good, and that's Clemson. They're a 6 seed in the West bracket. And you look at PJ Hall, who was a first team all ACC player. He's legit inside. They've got Chase Hunter, who's an absolute dude. They've got the ACC's most improved player in Ian Shefflin. They brought in Joe Girard, who's a transfer from Syracuse that just changed orange, basically, and is the ACC's leading
a little blue. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Is the ACC's leading free throw percentage shooter. I mean, that's a team that started this season incredibly hot and then Clemson in a lot of games, but they have the talent to do it. They're playing New Mexico and then Baylor, who doesn't have defense, and so I could foresee a world in which Clemson can find themselves in an Elite 8.
What is an upset right now? People are picking because we do this right away. Everyone's got their favorite 10 or their favorite 5-12 where you go, I got to go the other way. Like, can you zig while everyone's zagging?
Oh, zig while everyone's zagging. I'll give you this one where I just lost it in my bracket. St. Mary's and Grand Canyon. There's going to be a lot of Grand Canyoners out there because people always say when you're picking your bracket, choose 2 12 seeds to upset 5 seeds. That's just one of those things that everyone knows to do, right? Well, here's the deal. St. Mary's won the West Coast regular season and conference tournament. They've got an absolute big dude inside, Mitchell Saxon, who you don't want to mess with. They've got a sophomore in Aiden Mahaney, who is just a fun player to watch. And so I just don't see St. Mary's going down at the hands of Grand Canyon.
Stay up to date all year on college basketball by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On College Basketball on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On Sports Today your first listen. Coming up, there are some happy college fan bases out there, and there's some unhappy ones. Say goodbye to busted brackets with FanDuel because they let you bet on every game of the tournament. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a 1 seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all, a futures bet. East region has UConn on top with odds plus 120 to win the region and go to the Final Four. Iowa State has 4-1 odds, Auburn at 5-1, and Illinois at 8-1. Last year's Cinderella, Florida Atlantic, 32-1 odds to make it back to the Final Four. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. As you know, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel, Locked On Sports Today. Baseball fans, mark your calendar for March 20th at 7 p.m. Eastern for the best Major League Baseball season preview coming exclusively to Locked On Sports Today. On March 20th at 7 p.m. East, be the first to get local insight from Major League Baseball local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Find it on March 20th at 7 p.m. Eastern on Locked On Sports Today's 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. The Huskies are on top of the bracket, at least for now.
UConn is the #1 overall seed, right where they belonged, even before the rest of the #1s ended their regular season with a loss. Hi, I'm Mark Zanetto, your host of Locked On UConn. The Huskies open up the fence of their national title in Brooklyn Friday against the Stetson Hatters. The East bracket has the Big Ten champs, Illinois, the SEC champs, Auburn, the Big 12 champs, Iowa State, the A10 champs, Duquesne, and the AAC champs, UAB. But let's be honest. The reality is, for those teams in every other bracket, it's UConn's dance. No matter how many challenges you put in front of Danny Hurley and his team, nothing is stopping the champs from going back-to-back in Phoenix. Go check out my show daily on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. This will be a fun few weeks as we are in the mix for number 6.
A typical mid-major powerhouse, Gonzaga has struggled to get to this point this year.
Even better than the best case scenario is the Gonzaga Bulldogs earn a number 5 seed in the Midwest region in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Patton, host of the Locked On Zags podcast. We thought the Zags were going to be a 7 seed, maybe a 6 seed, particularly if they'd beaten St. Mary's, who also earned a 5 seed in that WCC championship. But instead, Gonzaga on that 5 seed, they'll take on a McNeese State team that won 30 games this year, 12 seed. Will Wade, fantastic coach over there. Drew Timmy's younger brother used to play for McNeese. A lot of fun there. Potential matchup in the second round against a 4-seeded Kansas team that is dealing with some serious injuries right now. We'll see what that means for Bill Self's team. And then potentially a lineup against Purdue, the 1 seed in the region for Gonzaga. This is a tremendous draw for Mark Few's program. Absolutely stunning to see this team get this level of respect. WCC 2 5 seeds this year. Really tremendous stuff. We'll have so much more in the coming days here on Locked On Zags.
The Vols. Do not sleep on the Vols.
Tennessee getting a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. It is expected and it is fair. Hey guys, I'm Eric Kane with Locked On Vols. After Tennessee was waxed, embarrassed in the quarterfinal round of the SEC tournament on Friday against Mississippi State, nobody was thinking Tennessee was going to maintain those projections from Joe Lunardi and others that Tennessee was going to stay at the 1 line. It was going down to the 2 line, and where you are now, I kind of like it. The Midwest region, sure, but you open in Charlotte, regional purposes, a short drive over the mountain, and a lot of Tennessee fans can go see that on Thursday. against St. Peter's, the 15th seed. Of course, one of those Cinderellas last year, took down Kentucky and more on the run to an Elite Eight. So, of course, that one's going to be one that you can't take lightly. Purdue's the 1 seed in the Midwest. Creighton's the 3 seed. Tennessee the 2 seed. Kansas the 4. And Texas is the number 7 seed. And Tennessee could potentially play Texas on Saturday, or the winner of the playing game of 10 seeds, Colorado and Boise State. I like this region for Tennessee. I see the path there to a Sweet 16 and potentially on to an Elite Eight, but you got to take care of business, got to knock down shots, and got to get your defense back under control, and not like what we've seen the last 2 games. Of course, Kentucky to finish the regular season, and against Mississippi State in the SEC tournament.
And nobody thinks the Gamecocks can make it work. Well, almost nobody.
The South Carolina Gamecocks are a number 6 seed, and anything else would have been wrong. I'm Andrew Lyon from Locked On Gamecocks. For the first time in 7 years, South Carolina will be going dancing in March Madness. The Gamecocks are a number 6 seed in the Midwest region, which I think is a little bit low. A lot of projections had them as a number 5 seed going to this bracket, but I don't think it's a bad deal at the end of the day. The big dogs in this region are the Purdue Boilermakers, the Tennessee Volunteers, and the Creighton Blue Jays. The South Carolina Gamecocks will be taking on the number 11 seed Oregon Ducks in the first round. The Oregon Ducks won the Pac-12 Tournament Championship, so they are definitely on a hot streak right now, and they're led by former Gamecock Jermaine Cousinard. For more on the South Carolina Gamecocks, subscribe to Locked On Gamecocks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Who should you pick in your bracket? Our college basketball experts give their picks.
All right, guys, time to put your money where your mouth is indeed. So let's go back to the Final Four one more time and then tell me who you guys got winning it all. So if I go back to the East, if I have it right, I've got UConn. That's Andy. Did I get it right?
Yep.
And I've got Iowa State. Isaac?
That's right.
All right, boom. Remember we said that. And then we go to the West, and I've got Isaac, you're picking UNC coming out of the West, and we've got Andy with Baylor.
Yep.
And going up top to the South, it's Andy with U of H and Isaac with U of H, right?
Agreement.
I love it. I love it. But then we go back to the Midwest, and we take it back down to Isaac having Tennessee. And let's see, Andy, you got Creighton?
Yep.
All right. Time to put your money where your mouth really is. Who's going to be hoisting that trophy, cutting those nets in about 3 weeks from now, Andy? Who you got?
Give me the Huskies. First time repeat national champion since 2007, not 2008 when Florida did it back-to-back years. This UConn team is so deep. They're so talented. Danny Hurley has this team absolutely rolling. Even at times this year when they had injuries, they never really wavered. They've had very few ugly losses this year. They lost to Seton Hall in the first game of the Big East. Outside of that, this team has just been tremendously phenomenal. If they can stay healthy, if Klingon doesn't suffer any injuries, his presence down low, Alex Caravan and Cam Spencer providing that floor spacing on the wing. Tristan Newton's one of the top 3 point guards in college basketball, and I don't think he's third. He is phenomenal the way that he has played this year. That combined with, I mean, we're 4 players in. We're not talking about their potential lottery pick combo guard and Stephon Castle. Like, this team is so deep, so talented, so well coached, so experienced. To me, it's really hard to see, especially with the matchups here in this bracket. The Baylor does not have the defensive horses to hang with UConn. Houston is a phenomenal defensive team, and I think that's your national championship matchup is UConn versus Houston, but Houston just does not score enough. UConn does not need to score 85 points against Houston. They probably only need to score 65 in order to win that game. It might not be the most fun watch, but I think UConn beats Houston in a low-ish scoring national championship game.
Isaac, who cuts down the nets on April 8th in Phoenix?
Well, coming out of that left side of the bracket where Iowa State and North Carolina, I do have the Tar Heels, just that experience that they have, despite the fact that they have a freshman running the show in Elliot Cadeau. I just rhymed and I didn't even know. But the Tar Heels are bringing it into the national championship game. First time making it back there since 2 years ago when they fell to Kansas. And unfortunately for the Tar Heels, they will fall again to the Houston Cougars, who are going to knock off Tennessee. A great defensive battle, by the way, in that semifinal. Good good grief. Looking forward to it. Houston, North Carolina in the championship game with Kelvin Sampson and the Cougars doing it. But what's interesting for me is I look at my Final Four, it is like 6 of our top Ken Palm teams in the nation. Iowa State, number 1, Houston, number 2, Tennessee, number 3, and North Carolina, number 6. So we could have a defensive-minded Final Four if it plays out the way I see it.
Get all the information you need to win your bracket pool by checking out our NCAA Tournament preview, by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On College Basketball on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, Justin Fields got traded for nothing. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, and their best price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Gametime has plenty of last-minute tickets to your favorite team. They also make it easy to get in the gate with flash deals and zone deals. Gametime makes it easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. They've got views from all seats in the venue. Gametime has the lowest price guaranteed. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Right now, new Gametime users get $20 off your first purchase with the code LOCKEDON. Terms apply. Just download the Gametime app and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, the lowest price guaranteed. The Bears have been supposedly trying to trade Justin Fields since the season concluded. What they got, well, it signals something Bears fans feared, as our Locked On Bears host, Lauren Cox, points out.
Justin Fields is a Pittsburgh Steeler, and his lack of trade value shows you why the Chicago Bears were smart to move on and draft a new quarterback with the number 1 overall pick. I'm Lauren Cox, and I host the Locked On Bears podcast. And the Chicago Bears should be disappointed with the lack of trade compensation they got for Fields. Just a conditional 2025 6th-round pick. That's peanuts. And it feels like a poorly managed trade asset. But separate from that, the lack of market for Fields, the fact that this was the best the Bears could get at this point, shows you how the rest of the NFL felt about Fields and why the Bears are then much better off getting a different quarterback. This was not a close debate between, is Fields as good as Caleb Williams? The NFL is telling you Fields is worth a day 3 draft pick and Caleb Williams is worth the number 1 overall pick. For more trade reaction, check out the Locked On Bears podcast.
What Bears fans did over the last 3 years was truly remarkable. For 3 years, it was everyone else's fault. It couldn't have been Justin Fields. They decided when he was drafted, he was going to the Hall of Fame. They decided when he was drafted that they were going to run the NFC North forever. Justin Fields changed everything until he changed almost nothing. He never got better in a significant way. He turned the ball over too often. He took too many sacks. He didn't create in the passing game. In fact, about as unproductive a player as we have seen in modern NFL history, at least as a passer, among guys who played the same amount of games. He was never any good. Meanwhile, Matt Nagy would start Nick Foles or Andy Dalton, and those guys would perform better than Justin Fields. Matt Nagy gets fired and immediately goes and wins a Super Bowl in Kansas City. Andy Reid seems to think he's a pretty good coach. I trust Andy Reid. They improve the offensive line. Nope, still their fault. They change the offensive coordinator and the head coach. Nope, still their fault. They add receivers. Nope, still their fault. It could not possibly be Justin Fields. And now the Bears sit here on the precipice of getting historically, generationally lucky that the Panthers took the wrong guy at number 1 last year, and now they get the number 1 pick all over again after trading it away last year to put their faith in Justin Fields, their misguided faith. And there are still a huge portion of Bears fans who cannot let go of Justin Fields. They cannot quit Justin Fields, and as a result, are putting down Caleb Williams, who is going to step on the field day 1, the most talented quarterback in Bears history. The way Bears fans are acting right now, they do not deserve Caleb Williams. And finally, in the first 49 years of the Players' Championship, there had never been a repeat winner. World number one Scottie Scheffler became the first back-to-back Players winner in the 50th edition of the fifth major at TPC Sawgrass, chasing down Xander Schauffele from 5 strokes back at the start of the final round to win with a 72nd hole total of 20 under. Jack Nicklaus couldn't do it. Won it 3 times. Neither could Fred Couples. Won it twice. Davis Love twice. Tiger Woods twice. And so many others. And it took a lip out on 18. Wyndham Clark had a chance to send it to extras, and it was heartbreak. Scottie Scheffler did what no one else had ever done before. As you know, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel, Locked On Sports Today. Baseball fans, mark your calendars for March 20th at 7 p.m. East for the best MLB season preview, coming exclusively to Locked On Sports Today. On March 20th at 7 p.m., be the first to get local insight from the MLB experts of Locked On. Find it on March 20th at 7 p.m. Eastern on Locked On Sports Today's 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Coming up on the next Locked On Sports Today, what is next for the Bears and the Steelers? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on Sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.